program today. As Chief Executive of RCM Asia Pacific, does this job affect your investment style? I mean, does it only invest in your own company's product?
Yeah, interesting question. When I used to work for Fidelity, I used to invest in Fidelity funds, and pretty much when I've worked at RCM for now 11 years, I invest exclusively in RCM funds. A few reasons. Firstly, I think if I was buying a Mercedes and the salesman turned up at my door driving a BMW, I'd sort of figure something was a little bit wrong there. So I think as CEO, certainly I've got to have full conviction over what my colleagues do. But I'm in the office every day. I'm working with my investment team. I can see the commitment they've got for delivering the consistent returns. So I'm very confident in the products that we're offering here. And my investment profile tends to be really centered on Asia. I am a long time believer in the growth story in this part of the world. So pretty much exclusively all of my investments in terms of equities have been positioned in this part of the world.
Mm-hmm. As you were a former academic, do you use your knowledge from the university to your personal investment?
Well, certainly I think the technical skills that I acquired as an academic have stood me well as I've built my career. The other aspect, of course, is that being an academic, you learn to pick up new ideas pretty quickly, and that's helped a lot. So I'm very focused on innovation and constant improvement. But overall, I don't think academia really taught me much about investment, and it only really started to gather my knowledge base once I entered the industry. I think, as Jack Welch said, you can't teach someone experience, and I think investments are something you have to learn yourself and develop your own style around your own preferences.
Do you believe any university can teach a smart investor or create any perfect investment model?
Well, I think that's the sort of, what they call the holy grail for many academics, to try and find the absolutely best way of investing. You may recall several years ago, LTCM had the best academics of their day, Nobel Prize winners, setting up the model there, and it all seemed to be going extremely well until it stopped working. And I think that sort of proved the paradox, really, because by definition, once you have the perfect model, the investment markets are adaptive, and therefore that model will no longer be perfect. And it's a little bit like sort of putting a football team together. For periods of time, one football team can develop certain tactics which allow them to win over a sustained period, or they can build their plays around one or two individual players. But over time, other teams learn how to play against that, and eventually they'll start to beat that team. And I think investment markets are like that, but even more quickly. They're more in real time, that ideas, models will quickly be found out in the market.
Mm-hmm. What were the best investment you have ever made?
Japan, 1999 probably. That was pretty fruitful. Property generally in Hong Kong and internationally stood me well. I think China, up until the beginning of this year when I sold out, I'd been sort of long of China for a period of time. That's performed pretty well, so there's a few examples, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And what were the worst investment you have ever made?
Well, I guess like many other investors, I was caught long of equity exposure back in the financial crisis in late 97, 98. I think there were a lot of signals suggesting that many of the economies in this region had become overextended, too much external debt, but I don't think any of us really realized the severity of the impact. And it took me some time to work my way out of that position. And in terms of property, I bought property in the late 80s in the UK, and that market went through a horrible slump in the late 80s and early 90s, and that took me 10 years to get back to par. So that was a bitter experience as well, about the liquidity of investments.
Mm-hmm. What investment tips you want to give to other investors?
Well, I guess I can't really add much to the volumes of books that have been written by recognized gurus. And one of my tips sounds fairly trite, actually, fairly simple, but the entry point is very important. And my friends often ask me, for tips. Think hard about the entry point, because that will determine your long-term overall experience. Also, be prepared to lose money in the short term. I've had experience when I first came to Hong Kong of buying a stock here which lost money in the short term, but fortunately I had some people around me who had more experience, and we rode out the losses and actually turned it around and made money over probably a 6-month period. So be prepared to lose money and have realistic expectations. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Overall, do you think you are rich or poor?
Well, I'm certainly not poor. you know, sort of looking back on my career, I've steadily built out my experience. My position has grown over that period. In terms of what I do day to day, you know, I'm still working hard. I'm still at the office every day. I'm still looking forward. I'm still saving hard. My key liability now, I guess, going forward is making sure that my kids have an education which allows them to realise the full extent of their capabilities, so they have the opportunities to go on and learn. So I don't think of myself as particularly rich, but certainly not poor.
Thank you very much for joining our program today.
My pleasure.